Okay, guys, we're gonna get started with the entrepreneur spotlight this week. This week we have Dewan Cherry. He is the owner of his own marketing agency called Agency ML. And I'm actually gonna have him introduce himself and tell us a little bit about a brief overview of your business and also what motivated you to start it.
Well, first and foremost, good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? Good. Is that good? All right, awesome. Well, first, this is really awesome to me because, everything that is COVID. For me, I love people. Like I love the process of meeting people and getting to know their story and figuring out their perspective, their experiences, where they come from, their background, their culture, everything that is them, the individual that I'm talking with. And one thing COVID it was hard for me, honestly, because I'm a social freak. Like I really am. And this opportunity here, it's a blessing for me because I get to interact with people again. And this is uh, this is amazing, honestly. But just a little bit about me. I'm a Milwaukee native. I grew up in the city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Grew up on 51st and Billard specifically. And the reason why I say that is because that defines who I am. It was everything that built a hardworking person. I was raised in a house with my grandmother, my sister, and my brother, and it allowed me to learn the perspective of a woman, of an African American woman, of someone that could, get up 5, 6 o'clock in the morning and get her grandson prepared for school. And then, as obviously I was in elementary school, middle school, whatever, she would go to work. And then when school was over, she would come home, she would prepare dinner, and she would come pick her grandson up. And just that process within itself, I looked at that as I was a kid, and I didn't really understand the necessary circumstances that I grew up with. I was just a kid. I just played along the lines. I played with my toys and was just a kid. But as I got older, I started to learn just the backbone of what her work ethic was and why that was so important. And when I became an adolescent, and I really wanted to take a look at what hard work specifically meant, and why my story was so important to me. I took that and I ran with it. And what I mean by that is I saw, how my grandmother worked so hard and why she worked so hard for me and why she did so much for me. And I wanted to make her proud in so many ways. And this past Tuesday, she turns 88 years old. And that is amazing. That is absolutely amazing. And if I start tearing up, it's just because the fact that I'm going to see my grandmother today at 3 o'clock, and as I was driving here from Atlanta, I just started to think about just the amount of years that she put into of who I am and making sure that I was okay, making sure my brothers were okay, and just every single thing, just every single thing that she did led up to me being here and speaking in front of you. And I look at that and I just think is absolutely amazing, and it leaves me speechless. And so I picked up my very first camera when I was around 12 or 13 years old, and it was a camcorder. It wasn't specifically like a camera, it was a camcorder. And I didn't know the functions of it. I didn't know what I was doing with it half of the time. But I knew this is what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't know if I was going to be a director or if I was going to just be involved with the production, whatever the case may be. But I knew I was going to have a camera in my hand. And so I learned that it's not, I didn't have the best modification. I think it's shot at like 480p, which is not the best quality sometimes. But I learned it's not what you have, is what you can do with what you have. So that was one of the lessons that I learned from the very, very beginning. And I learned to become very, very resourceful with the resources that I did have. I didn't have a lot of money. I felt like I was in an environment where I didn't have a lot of external resources, but I had a camera, and I could do a lot with that camera. And so I was proud to say I made my first $500 with that camera. I think it was like a photography project, but I did some video on it. Like I had a camera modified, like a camera function, and so I had like this. I want to say it was like a couple shoot or something like that. But I took some really great pictures, and then like I did this like cute romantic video or something. But I made $500 from it. And then I learned, okay, I can use this $500. I can save a little bit, but I can also put it towards something much more expensive. I can put it into more editing software. So I can put it into investing into a bigger, larger camera. And so I learned that was one of the first lessons is that I had to become really, really resourceful. After that, I was blessed to go to Milwaukee Lutheran High School, where it taught me how to direct, how to work with different personality types, and I obviously only took 1 or 2 classes on that, but it helped. But the biggest help that I had was when I graduated from Milwaukee Lutheran. I took an internship with the Milwaukee Repertory Theater, it was all specifically being a director. So it was how to talk to people that were stage technicians. It was how to talk with lighting. It was how to talk to actors, and that was such an amazing experience. And then fast forward, I went to Concordia University of Wisconsin my freshman, sophomore year, and I was a sports broadcaster. So if you go on their YouTube right now, you'll see me doing like the pre-game interviews, post-game interviews, and I was a little bit nervous, honestly. I didn't know what I was doing half of the time, but I knew I was having fun, and it was a great experience for me. Fast forward, that's when I went to UW Milwaukee, transferred. I took an internship at the Morning Blend, and that was an amazing opportunity. Started as an intern, and the experience of being in the entertainment industry, but also learning a different side, which is the news side as well too, was an incredible experience. I got to go to the Midwest Emmy Awards, which is like the Emmy Awards for news. So I got to meet Peter Alexander, who's the White House correspondent, I believe. And so it was just a really, really amazing experience. Fast forward to December of 2018, and that is when I started my own company. And boy, oh boy, there was a lot of struggling. There was a lot of struggles. So that period where I left the news or left the entertainment news, whatever, there was a period where I asked myself, do I really want to do this for the rest of my life? And going home to your family and saying, hey, I want to start a company. What? Like what? And so it sounds insane because it's a big risk, and no one believes in you. No one thinks it's going to happen because you didn't take a marketing class, you didn't take a business class. So what makes you think that you can just run off and start a business? You left a job where you was making great money, and you were comfortable, but you weren't happy yourself. So going home to your family and saying, hey, I want to start this company, and not knowing exactly who your target market is and who you're going to sell to and what you're selling and what your product is, it's a lot of questions. It's a really, really big risk. But I wanted to do it because I knew this was going to make me happy. And so for 6 months, 5-6 months, give or take, I was struggling. I was struggling a lot because there was pretty much no income coming in. And I had to figure this thing out. I was living with my sister at the time, and it was tough because, my sister, she wants the best for me. And, she loves me a lot. She said, okay, I understand if this is what you want to do, I get it, but you need another job. And I'm like, no, because then that allows me to miss opportunities with people and with business, and I can't do that. And so it was always a back and forth battle between me and my sister because she loves me very, very much. And I hope she sees this. But it was a fight. Fast forward though, a thing that really, really clicked is that we partnered with a nonprofit out in the Cedarburg area. It's called the Student Union, and they blessed our life really, really well. They were a small boutique coffee shop in the Cedarburg area, and so they really wanted to grow their brand essentially. And so, okay, we were in the middle of trying to figure out what exactly do we do? Because we were always like the spider web, which is kind of a common thing in the digital media era. Like everybody wants to do websites and video and everything else. And I said, okay, let's backtrack. What are we actually good at? And we were good at the managing social media accounts, and we were good at the telling video branding side. So storytelling, video production, essentially. And so I said, let's get rid of the website stuff. Let's get rid of saying we can develop apps, which we can't. But what are we really, really good at? And so that's when we officially branded ourselves. We're a social media agency, essentially, that tells your story through social media content and video content. And so when we really started to figure out who we are and what we do and how we sell and who we sell to, we said, okay, let's maximize that. Let's talk about that. Let's shoot our own video content. At the time, I was working with a team of 3. It was my photographer and it was my videographer. And I believe my social media manager, she was an intern at the time. Her name was Caitlin. She's awesome. But I said, okay, let's start with ourselves. Let's brand ourselves. Let's tell our own stories. And that's how we essentially started to generate clientele for ourselves. Was we would jump on video cameras, or at times we would do a full production on a specific topic or a specific situation or whatever the case may be. And we would just tell stories all the time. And we found out that the biggest platform to use was LinkedIn. My friend Quentin Alomes, some may have heard of him before. He's a really awesome guy. Awesome guy. Yeah, cute. I met him back in December as well too. It was me, Q, and Sam Lister. And I remember when we was in his first office, and this was around December, I want to say, either December or January, and we were all kind of like, this is what we're gonna be doing, and kind of like almost dream sharing, And Q said, let's see what we're doing in a year. Let's just see who's doing what in a year. Let's see if we're committed at this. And I made a vow to myself that it was a night, I remember. I made a vow to myself. I said, whether these are competitors or my best friends, that I'm gonna make a commitment to myself to really, really focus on this thing, and I'm going to do whatever I can to make it happen. So that in the next year, my company survives, and I'm doing better in that year. So that the next year, okay, I can take the lessons from the first year, and now it's time to maximize that. The next year, okay, how can I scale this thing? How can I grow this thing? And I'm gonna keep focusing on this one thing until I can't anymore. And so just to kind of give you an overview, like I said, we're a social media agency. We tell stories through social media content, through video content as well too. And so we're really excited about the launch of 2021. We have a lot of great projects in the works right now. We recently expanded into the Atlanta, Georgia area, I'll be back on Tuesday. We have a lot of great opportunities. We typically work with financial institutions, so either banks, credit companies, and things like that. Our video side, obviously, we're very versatile, so we like to tell stories. If you are a brand and you want to tell your story, you want to get your name out there to have a specific goal in mind, because we just don't want to shoot video just to shoot video. If you have a specific goal, then we want to help you iron out those details. We want to help you get to the goal that you want, essentially. So, yeah, and if you have any questions about me, feel free to ask.
Awesome, that's great to hear about your journey so far, and I'm excited to see what you do next. So we also want to talk a little bit about this. So entrepreneurs often underestimate the resources that they'll need to get their business up and running. And so when you started, did you have a good sense of how much money you really needed to get your business to a point to where it was sustainable?
I didn't at the time. And I would say the biggest number for me is $500. If I can take $500 and make it into 1,000, then I can make 1,000 and turn it into 5,000. And that was always my mindset. Is what can I do with as little as possible and flip it into a bigger investment. And so for me, whenever I started out, I said, okay, as long as I can make $500 within a month. Then I know exactly what I need to do to get to 1,000 within the next month or so. And I didn't want to paint too much of a bigger picture in my head, because I think with a lot of entrepreneurs, they go the taking out a loan route. I would never suggest that. I'm not sure if that's the next question or not, but I actually wanted to really talk about that because I run into a lot of entrepreneurs and they want to take out loans. And I suggest to not do that. Figure out how you can sell. Figure out how you can, if it's $500, if you're setting that as a goal for the month, or a goal for I need to get this within the next 2 weeks. to figure out what exactly you need to do to get there. But loan, it can cause a lot of problems down the line, especially with interest rates and APRs. Trust me, I know everything about that. Especially working with banks and a lot of financial institutions and learning and educating myself on how that operates. If you can figure out how to get to $500 within three weeks or even a month, let's just kind of be specific with that. If you can figure out how to get $500 in a month, then there's no doubt in my mind, using that same algorithm that you had, using that same self-seller, of making $1,000 in the next month. And so it's just taking that and maximizing that as much as possible.
Yeah, that's a great point to make. We did talk about that today, a loan being an option, but there were a lot of other tactics that we talked about, so that kind of leads into the next question. We talked about bootstrapping, leveraging, bartering, and sharing, and other creative ways to access resources you don't own. And so, did you rely on these types of tactics in the early days of your business? And can you talk about a couple examples of that?
Bootstrapping. I would always suggest anyone to really bootstrap, and it will be very, very hard. And the reason why I say bootstrap is because, one, bootstrapping, it revolves around a lot of how you, or what exactly you need to do in order to grow your business. So let's just say you are a tech, like you want to invest into tech, like you want to invest into an app. There's a lot of angel investors, and so there's a lot of investors within the city of Milwaukee that are looking for entrepreneurs with the best billion-dollar idea, essentially. So if you have that idea, all you need to do is figure out what companies are willing to invest into your product, willing to take a look into your product. But it's up to you and to finding out who those people are. I know a lot of things are happening within Northwestern Mutual right now, where they're really looking for their next essential billion-dollar idea. You can talk to Adam. He's a person that works out of the Northwestern Mutual department, and I know right now they're doing an incubator space. It's not something that it's going to be launching soon, but all their focus within the next year is looking for the next entrepreneur to launch the quote unquote billion-dollar idea. And so if you think you have an idea, there are companies out here that are willing to invest into you, and Northwestern Mutual is one. And so just take a look at your product, really do your research, really dive deep, and hop on LinkedIn. That's a really great source to have. But I would say I would always look into bootstrapping your business. A good example for me was when I started my company. I know video is very oversaturated within the city of Milwaukee. So I know all of my competitors. I know what I need to do in order to generate a clientele for myself. The biggest question that you need to ask yourself is, how unique are you to your competitors? So for me, I believe there's about 20 to 25 just locally in the city of Milwaukee that just do video. Some have transitioned, some went from a college student to just trying to start their own video agency, whatever the case may be. But you need to take a look at your competitors and figure out how unique am I? How unique can I position myself compared to my competitors?
Can you talk a little bit about what makes your agency unique specifically?
We are individual branders, so we want to tell our own individual stories and tie that back into the company. So I'll tell my story, and my graphic designer Tatum will tell her story, and my social media manager Cecilia will tell her story. So what we'll do is we're all different in terms of our individuality, but when we jump on camera, we want to share a perspective of either business or either life or whatever the case may be. I may do something that's video related. I may do something business related. A lot of my content on LinkedIn now, it has pivoted to a lot of business stuff, but I somehow tie that back into the company. So I'll give bits and pieces of advice on a clientele situation, on how I didn't close out fast enough, on how I'll lose a client, on if it's just tips and hacks on how to create your own video, whatever the case may be. So we try to brand ourselves individually, but somehow we'll tie that back into the company. A lot of video agencies or digital media companies, what they'll do is they'll go with the corporate look, that's not really setting yourself apart from your competitors. More than anything, you're just being in a oversaturated industry where everyone's pretty much saying the same thing, and I don't want to say the same thing. Like I honestly, and something that I really stress a lot within my team is how can we not be basic? Like how can we not be basic? Like how can if someone's being blue, how can we be a yellow? Or if someone's being yellow, how can we be like a teal or something like that? So whatever someone else is doing, we try to do different every single time. And so for us, like we really do try to show our individual brands within our video content, but we try to be as unique as possible. So yeah.
Awesome, that's great. And then also, we did spend a little bit of time talking about the importance of cash flow and knowing how to manage it. And so, can you share any thoughts or lessons learned about cash flow management?
Operating a small team, it definitely is something that you have to keep track. So taxes is the biggest thing for me. For the first time this year, I believe we will be doing our taxes, because with 2019, like I said, we wasn't really making any money, and so learning that payroll and learning taxes and learning, okay, I have to pay my lawyers and I have to pay my building and everything else. It's something that you really have to keep track. We use a software system, so things like QuickBooks really help you out as well too. PayPal, if you're sending out invoices and things like that, I know they kind of keep track of all your invoices and they tell you, what was your sales for that specific month. So when you are sitting down and you are, going over your taxes and things like that, make sure that they're all documented and just use certain software systems. I know QuickBooks, depending on if you're just a small business, if you're just if you're a one-person entrepreneur, then they have certain price points. So I think if you are a solo entrepreneur, I think it's like $19 or something like that a month. So, and with $19 a month, it keeps track of all of your like finances and things like that. So QuickBooks is a really great source to utilize, and it's really cheap too.
Awesome. And then also, we did want to know, were there any lessons that you had to learn the hard way in your business?
There's so many actually. I would say the number one is you have to spend money in order to make money, and scared money does not make any money. And what that means is you have to be willing to not only see the bigger picture, and by that I mean for us, we just spent another $3,000 on camera equipment. And we know for one that we're going to get that back, because our goal is we want to make everything cinematic. In order to do that, we have to make money by buying equipment. But we know that if we were scared to spend that money, then we won't be making any money. We're just, basically being basic, which is something I hate. But so when you're looking at your own product, and this is how something that you can draw within your own realm. When you're looking at your product, look at, okay, what things do I have to spend my money on? So for us, one of the things is contracts. I sit down with so many up and coming, people that want to dive into my industry, and they sit down with people and don't have anything like a contract or any scope of work or anything like that. And it happened to one of my friends. I remember sitting with him in a coffee shop last year, and something he said was he did this music video for a client, quote unquote client. He finished the product, and then they sat down, and then he said, okay, this is what the video looks like. He didn't give the video to him. They just sat down together, and he said, okay, this is the price of the video. And then he said, I don't have it. Can we just kind of hold off on the project? So that was the biggest lesson that he learned, was a small, simple thing as a contract is so important. And contracts are very important because lawyers have to make them out, and lawyers are not cheap. So it's important that you really look at, okay, if I'm selling to someone, what are the things that I'll need? Building an LLC, I think it's like $125 right now. That costs money. I think there's something else really important too. If you have a bookkeeper or accountant, that costs money. Like I said, QuickBooks to make sure that all your finances in place, that costs money. So, but you have to make sure that, okay, I need these things to make my life better, to make the managing side of things better. So you have to make sure that if you are planning to make money, that whatever price point that you have set out, make sure that it's not only covering the things that you're spending your money on, but that you have something kept for yourself, and then you have something saved as well too. So you have to make sure that when you are going out and you are selling yourself, don't devalue yourself. So make sure that when you are setting your price points, that you set them at an equal balance. Set them where if you close out at, let's just say, $500, is that covering all of your other assets? And do you have enough to pay yourself, and do you have enough to save as well too? So don't forget that. So make sure that if you are spending money, don't be scared at it. Make sure that you see the bigger picture.
Awesome, that's great. Yeah, contracts is something we talked about last week, so it's awesome that you touched on that, something that you've had experience with. And then lastly, before we take questions from you guys, we just wanted to know if you have any advice in general for the entrepreneurs here today when starting their business.
Go for it. Honestly, now is the best time. Don't sit back, don't wait, go for it. I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, and the biggest thing that I stress is consistency. I follow up, I follow back, I follow through every single time, every day, until we're not talking anymore. Consistency is the number one thing, because a lot of people, I understand, a lot of people have so many things throughout the day, but when you wake up, make sure that you're sending out your emails, making sure that you're following up with clients, making sure that you plan emails right after you get off the Zoom calls. Make sure that after you guys, have that talk, that you already have that proposal all ready to go. But just make sure that you keep yourself consistent and you keep yourself accountable, because at the end of the day, that's the only thing that's going to win, is that you show up every single time, and that the person knows your face, and that when they go home at night, they think, okay, wow, Kendra was someone that really, really, stuck in my mind. I want to meet her again. I want to meet someone that is responsible and that wants to make sure that whatever they're selling to me, that I'm going to get the best value out of. I'm going to get some sort of return. So yeah, make sure that you're consistent. Make sure that if someone is on a treadmill, and this is one of the best. I think it was something that Will Smith said in like a motivational video, was that if you're on a treadmill and your competitor's on a treadmill, make sure that the only time that they're gonna take you off is if you die. But be consistent, show up, be ready, because at the end of the day, you don't know when that next client is going to walk through your door, is going to meet with you and hand you a check for $1 million. So be prepared. Make sure your product is ready. Make sure you're ready for your own success. I just invested myself into a bunch more suits just because I know what lies ahead of me. So you know what lies ahead of you. You see your success. Make sure you're ready for it. Don't devalue yourself. Don't sell yourself short, because everyone in here has the potential to be the next millionaire, to be on TV, to have the quote unquote fame or whatever the case may be. So be ready for it. Don't be scared for it. Do not be scared for your success. It lies ahead of you. And yeah, and I will be watching everyone, because I hope to connect everyone on LinkedIn after this. So.
You guys, do you mind if we send them your email address?
Absolutely.
We're going to wrap this session up because we have to be kind to our friends from Libic who are here along with Kiva.
All right.
But I want to thank you so much for making it out.
Thank you.
And I know